Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. We want to give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we've got a pretty serious show for you guys that I want to get into immediately. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel there. Let me just get into this topic immediately. Now, this Dillon Brooks situation has become a serious talking point in NBA circles over the last 2 or 3 days now. What am I referring to? As you know, Dillon Brooks did not have a good playoff run with the Grizzlies. He had very poor numbers. He didn't conduct himself properly. He talked a lot of trash. He avoided a lot of post-game interviews after going out there and saying all of these different things, right? So he really put himself in a very, very bad position from a PR, from a public relation standpoint. We know this, right? And everyone kind of gave him his, his lashes or whatever, his proverbial lashes for the way that he behaved. But then, after the series ended, we got a report, all right? We got a report from Shams Charania, where Shams Charania said, the Memphis Grizzlies have informed pending free agent Dillon Brooks that he will not be brought back any under circumstances, league sources say. Now, initially, when we heard this news, a lot of us were like, man, this is crazy. Like, this is really, really crazy that this thing is going out like this. But then I remember the very first person that I heard call out the languaging of this particular report was Kendrick Perkins on ESPN. And he said that the way that they phrased this about Dillon Brooks could be damaging for his career moving forward, given the fact that he's a free agent. And it could make it very difficult for him to get a new contract when you have a team saying we cannot bring this guy under any circumstances. Then yesterday, I was following some of the news shows and I saw Shannon Sharpe and Redick, especially, by the way, Redick go off about this insider that released this report about Dillon Brooks. So what we want to do, we want to get straight to the point. We're going to play first what Shannon had to say about the situation. Then we're going to play what Redick had to say, and then we're going to come back and react to what they had to say. Take a listen to this here.
Cut bait with him.
Skip, if somebody's a free agent and you don't re-sign them, you can just automatically assume they really didn't want that person, considering they own his bird rights, and they can sign him, give him an extra year, and give him more money than another team. Okay. Skip, but this notion, think about it, Skip, what they said, under any circumstances. So if all the other free agents get swiped up,
that's what
ain't no chance of you coming back here. Really? That man, so y'all despise that man. If that man is that responsible for what transpired in Memphis this year. Okay. So where was he? Was he in that car when that beam came out? Well, I didn't see him doing no IG Live. You see that? I didn't hear no stories about him fighting some high school kid. Do you hear that?
I didn't hear that.
So what role did that play? None?
Also, I cannot figure out how Ja got reinstated so quickly. They played that one beautiful.
What about the security guard at the Foot Locker?
That's another one.
So I'm just saying.
There were all kinds of.
But Dillon Brooks' name was never brought up into that. But you blame him because he said LeBron. Yeah, I disagree. Do I believe he should have said that? No, I believe you could compete without being disrespectful. Okay, that's another argument for another day. Yeah. But to scapegoat the man, Skip, and to say under no circumstances.
Okay.
And whether they choose to bring him back or don't choose, or whatever it may be. I can't remember a time in my now 17 years, either being in the NBA or covering the NBA, where we're in the second round of the playoffs, the day of a game where two of the greatest players ever are getting ready to square off, and we're just tweeting out things for engagement. Like, is that where we're at? Is that where, actually, you know what? I'd be willing to bet that language didn't come from the Grizzlies. Look, this is the problem. Right? It's agenda-driven media. I have a problem with it. The reality is Dillon Brooks hurts them offensively. If you want to go in another direction, that's fine. That is fine. Do the antics, did that hurt them? I actually don't know. I don't know how much that hurt them. There's other problems in roster construction, guys being out. Like, there's other issues besides Dillon Brooks and him poking a bear. The entire culture around that team has changed a lot in the last 2 years. I actually remember this. When I was in the bubble, There were 2 teams that had FU written on their forehead walking around. You see them at the hotel, you see them at practice, you see them at games. There were 2 teams that I was like, oh, these guys actually want to be here. And it was the Memphis Grizzlies and the Miami Heat. The culture has changed a little bit. There is semantics. Is Dillon Brooks the only one that's a part of that? Like, to me, he's not the scapegoat. And whoever agenda it was to tweet that out, I got a problem with that. And if you ask Dillon Brooks' teammates, they ride with him. They ride with him. It's okay to go in another direction. I don't understand why you have to kick a guy while he's down. For engagement? Really?
So you heard their comments. What are my thoughts on this? I think it's things like this that really strain the relationship between players and the media when things like this happen. There was no good reason to use that type of language when referring to Dillon Brooks and him parting ways with the Memphis Grizzlies. There was no good reason, number one. Number two, as the person publishing that information, you ought to know the effect or the damage something like that can do to a player that's no longer under contract, that's now seeking a new contract. You see, generally what happens with professional athletes is that they play very well towards the end of a contract, especially that final year, to ensure that they can get a big contract with another team. But in the case of Dillon Brooks, he did not have a very good season with the Memphis Grizzlies. He did not. A lot of his numbers went down. To make matters worse, his numbers went even further down in the playoffs when you need him the most. His numbers dipped. And then you now throw on top of the fact that Shams is putting out this type of report about the guy. Well, it's going to make it very, very difficult for him to get a new contract. And that is the exact reason why JJ Redick, who I'm with on this particular issue, and Shannon Sharpe are so upset with the language that Shams Charania used. Now, here's the thing about Shams. Shams is represented by United Talent Agency, which is partnered, with Rich Paul's Clutch Sports, which partnered with them 2 years ago. So there's a connection there. There's a connection there somewhere. Also, it has been documented that Sham, for the longest time, has been putting out a lot of negative press about Russell Westbrook. This is documented. I think we saw something about a potential account on Twitter where we thought it was someone else, but it was him. And it was this account that was constantly putting out negative information, negative stats, always covering Russell Westbrook from a negative angle. And we found out it was him, allegedly, right? So to me, I think that JJ Redick was fully aware of who he was. He probably didn't want to call him out by name. I think Shannon Sharpe was also fully aware of who put out this report. But I'm very happy to see that these guys are calling this out, because to me, that was a dirty move. It was a dirty move because now we're definitely going to affect the livelihood of this guy and the potential dollars you could potentially earn moving forward. So I thought it was very interesting that they were able to share their points in such a passionate way. So what I want to know from you guys is simply this. What do you think about what Shannon and JJ Redick had to say? What do you think about my analysis? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.